The biggest mistake in digital marketing is believing that virality is accidental. We see a video, a meme, or some idea just explode across the internet, and we write it off as a lightning strike, a moment of pure, unrepeatable luck. We tell ourselves, oh, they were just in the right place at the right time. But that belief, that kind of comforting story of randomness, it's precisely what holds most creators and companies back. It's a convenient illusion that costs fortunes in wasted ad spend and missed opportunities. Today, we're going to replace that illusion with an engine.
Okay, so let's really lean into this for a second because this one question changes literally everything. It flips the whole challenge on its head. Instead of asking, how can I get lucky, we're going to start asking, how do I build a system that guarantees distribution? What if virality isn't some lottery ticket you hope to win, but it's a machine you can design, build, and run with predictable results? That's what we're exploring today, the science of sharing, the architecture of contagion. We're going to dismantle this engine piece by piece and show you the blueprints so you can build your own.
And to do that, we've got a really clear path laid out. First, we'll shatter the virality illusion for good. Then we'll look at the economic pressure cooker that made all this necessary in the first place, the acquisition cost crisis. From there, we'll unpack the engine itself, the engineered virality loop, and dig into the human impulses that power it in the psychology of sharing. Then we'll get practical with your viral blueprint, and we'll wrap it all up with the single biggest shift in modern marketing, this idea that the audience is the messenger. By the end of this, you'll see virality not as an accident, but as an engineered outcome.
So let's tackle that core misconception head-on. The most profitable, game-changing viral campaigns, I'm talking about the ones that built giants like Dropbox, Hotmail, or even the early growth of Facebook, they were not accidents. They were meticulously engineered systems. I mean, think about Hotmail. They added that little line, P.S. I love you, get your free email at Hotmail to the bottom of every single email sent from their service. That wasn't just a clever idea, it was a distribution mechanism built right into the product. They didn't hope people would share, they guaranteed it.
This table really lays out the mindset shift we're talking about. On the left, you've got what we think causes virality. We think it's luck, but it's really a system. We think it's about being fresh or new, but it's actually about tapping into timeless human psychology. We chase humor or try to jump on the latest trend, but the pros? They're using specific, predictable psychological levers and triggers. You see, everything on the left is a guess. Everything on the right is a strategy.
So, why did this all happen? Why did companies get so obsessed with turning marketing into a science? Well, like a lot of great innovations, it was born out of a crisis. It came from a place of pure, unavoidable economic pressure. For a long time, the growth playbook was simple. You want more customers, you pay for more ads. But that model, well, it started to break. Just look at this. In the early days of online advertising, getting a new customer was cheap. You could run ads, turn a profit, and scale your business pretty easily. But as more and more companies flooded the market, it turned into this massive bidding war for our attention. And prices went up and up and up. What used to be a low-cost strategy became wildly expensive, and for a lot of companies, it hit a point where it was just flat-out unsustainable. It was a mathematical death sentence. And this is the key point. Businesses were forced to find another way. The piggy bank was empty. They couldn't afford to buy every single user anymore. They needed a system where their existing users would bring them more users for free. The message itself had to become its own distribution engine. This wasn't just another marketing strategy. It was a matter of survival. And that intense pressure is what kicked off this whole obsession with engineering for self-distribution.
And out of that obsession, one single metric rose to the top. It became the holy grail of this new growth model, the viral coefficient, also known as the K factor. This is it. This is the number that tells you if your business grows on its own or if it's a leaky bucket you have to keep pouring money into. It simply measures, on average, how many new users each of your current users brings in. So for example, if 100 of your users invite their friends and 50 of those friends sign up, your K factor is 0.5. It is the mathematical heartbeat of viral growth.
All right, so if the goal is to get that K factor as high as possible, how do you actually do it? This is where we get into the mechanics, and it's not magic, I promise. It's a clear, logical process, a behavioral loop designed with the precision of an engineer to create a self-perpetuating cycle of growth. This loop shows you the 3 core stages. It all starts with the shareable asset. That's the thing itself, whether it's a video, a tool, or a product feature. That asset then needs to trigger a high arousal emotion. That's the fuel for this engine. And finally, that emotion needs to drive the user into the K factor loop,
which is the system that turns that emotional energy into new users. So asset, emotion, loop. Let's break each one down. The shareable asset isn't just your content, it's the package it comes in. And you should think of it like a Trojan horse. The person sharing it thinks they're just sending a cool video or a useful article to their friend. But inside that horse is your message, your brand, your idea. For this to work, the asset has to deliver immediate value to both the person sharing it and the person receiving it. That idea of dual value is absolutely critical.
In this whole system, every part of this engine is designed to achieve one beautiful mathematical goal, a K factor greater than 1. If your K is less than 1, let's say it's 0.5, your growth will eventually slow down and fizzle out. But the second K tips over that number 1, everything changes. If K is just 1.1, every 10 users bring in 11 new ones. Those 11 then bring in over 12, and so on. You've just crossed the threshold from slow, paid growth to true, exponential, self-sustaining viral growth. That's the promised land.
Okay, so we have the mechanical loop, but what actually makes a human being click that share button? The machine doesn't run without fuel, right? And in this engine, the fuel is pure human psychology. We have to go deeper and really understand the specific, deep-seated impulses that make a person take the physical action of sharing something with their network.
So, the single most powerful driver is something called social currency. Look, we're social creatures. We are hardwired to care about our status and how other people see us. When we share something, we're rarely just sharing information. We are making a statement about ourselves. We're signaling, hey, I'm smart, or I'm funny, or I'm on the cutting edge. Sharing is an act of identity curation. The content is just a tool to make us look good, and that feeling is an incredibly powerful reward.
The next lever is emotion. But here's the thing. It's not about making people feel something. It's about making them feel the right kind of something. Research from Wharton and others has proven that high-arousal emotions are the ones that trigger action. Think about the physical difference between feeling awe and feeling content. Awe makes your heart race. Surprise gives you a jolt. Anxiety puts you on edge. These emotions cause a physical activation in our bodies that practically demands an outlet, like sharing. Contentment or sadness, those are passive states. They don't make us do anything. To go viral, you have to light a fire. And finally, there's the incredibly powerful need for utility. This is all about providing sheer, undeniable practical value. When you share something that's genuinely useful, a life hack, a helpful tool, a critical piece of information, you're not just sharing content, you're giving a gift. This taps into the deep psychological principle of reciprocity. The person who gets it feels a sense of gratitude and is now primed to either use your product or pass that valuable gift along to someone else. You've helped them, so they feel inclined to help you back. So, we've walked through the theory, the history, and the deep psychology. Now let's turn all of that into an actionable framework. How do you actually take these principles and apply them to your own work? This isn't about crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It's about following a clear, repeatable blueprint. And the blueprint is actually beautifully simple. It follows directly from everything we've talked about. First, you have to consciously engineer the emotion. Don't leave it to chance. Decide if you want your audience to feel awe or surprise or even productive anxiety, and then build your content to deliver that state. Second, you have to design for social currency, making absolutely sure that sharing your content makes the sharer look good. And third, you have to bake in the K-factor loop, turning that psychological impulse into a measurable, repeatable system.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the goal of designing for social currency. You want to create content that, when shared, makes the person sharing it look like an insider. It positions them as a curator of valuable information. The act of sharing becomes a status symbol, a quick and easy way to signal to their network that they're in the know. That feeling is the reward that powers the share.
And finally, baking in that K-factor. This is the most mechanical step, but it's maybe the most crucial part of turning impulse into real growth. It means you have to make sharing explicit, easy, and rewarding. The classic example is Dropbox. Get 500 megabytes of free space for every friend you refer. This incentivizes the invitation for both the sender and the recipient. And this is critical, the system has to automatically track where every new user comes from, so you can actually measure your K-factor and know if your engine is working.
Okay, let's zoom all the way out for the final, most important takeaway here. When you put all these pieces together, the economic need, the psychological triggers, the mechanical loop, you end up at a really profound shift in how we have to think about marketing. It's a completely new paradigm.
Here it is, the fundamental truth of this entire system. A message doesn't spread because you, the creator, want it to. It spreads because the person spreading it, the messenger, gets something valuable out of the deal. They are rewarded for taking action, either with the feeling of enhanced social status or the satisfaction of providing real utility to a friend. This isn't about tricking people, it's about perfectly aligning your goals with their own fundamental human impulses.
This quote just says it all. Traditional marketing is about pushing a message at people, hoping some of it sticks. Engineered virality is totally different. It's about creating something so valuable, so emotionally resonant, so status-enhancing, that people are actively pulled towards it and feel a need to pull others in with them. In this model, you're not just getting an audience, you are recruiting and empowering a massive volunteer marketing force. You're making the audience the messenger.
So I'll leave you with this one question. The next time you create something, don't just ask yourself, will people like this? Ask, will this make people share this? Stop aiming for passive consumption, start aiming for active distribution. Because now you know the system, you know the levers, you know the psychology. The only question left is how are you going to use them?